Welcome to the Fantasy Flex Podcast. I am your host, Chris Raybon. It's Monday. We're going to be talking waivers. I'm here with my colleagues, Sean Kerner and Samantha Praviti. We're going to get into all the waiver information you guys need to know. But Samantha, I'll start with you. How was your week number 2 of the NFL 2021 season?
I feel like it was going well. Like I was probably going to win most of my matchups. And then I got Derrick Henry. Like I got full on stiff arms, tractor Cicho season, Derrick Henry. In one of my leagues, I have this like custom scoring league where there's multipliers for like big games and stuff. So he scored 69 points against me. Nice, but not so.
We need a sound producer, Matt, Dan, whoever, sound effect 69. Nice. All right, sorry.
So that was brutal.
Sean, how's your week too?
Pretty chaotic. Any week where Andy Janovich scores a touchdown is going to be exciting. So I saw a lot of DFS people complaining about week 2. If you thought week 2 is crazy, just wait till week 3. I thought overall it was a pretty normal week. We've come to expect in the NFL. But love it. Football's back, and now we have 2 games worth of data. So I think week 3 is going to be our best one yet with all these pods. So looking forward to it.
I mean, we'll see. It could just be downhill from here, kind of like rostering anyone on Kyle Shanahan's team.
Oh God.
I'm not even gonna get into that because I feel like we need to devote like a while for that. So we're gonna start like we normally do at quarterbacks. People might need a streamer. A lot of quarterbacks got hurt last week. So, I mean, there's a lot going on here at quarterback. So, Sean, I'll start with you. I think Justin Fields, he's obviously the top injury pickup. What are your thoughts on like just how to approach the situation with a lot of quarterback status for next week in question? Tua Tagovailoa looks like he's going to miss. Tyrod Taylor is not going to play Thursday. Carson Wentz is his lower legs has hurt again. Taylor Heineke stepped in admirably for Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, I mean, the fans are chanting his name in Washington. And of course, you have Fields who, was on the field a lot, but didn't play particularly well. How are you kind of, is there anything that people could like do to kind of increase their likelihood of winning their matchup in week 3 or for the season regarding all these crazy injuries that transpired?
I mean, Justin Fields should already be on somebody's team. If he's still available, you need to add him immediately. It's only a matter of time until he replaces Andy Dalton, whether he's injured or not. And then once he does take over a starter, he's going to be, QB1, QB2 cusp upside. So he should be, taken in every single league. Tyler Heineke is probably the next guy up that needs to be added because it does look like Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be out for quite some time. So he's a QB that has several starts at least looking forward. And he has dual threat ability. He has QB2 upside. As far as the other quarterbacks, it sounds like Carson Wentz might be the most likely to miss more time. I'm not sure, but he injured both ankles. Apparently that sounds pretty bad. So Jacob Eason in like the deepest of deep QB, 2 QB formats, sure, add him. Whereas, Tyrod Taylor is already day-to-day. Tua is day-to-day. So, Davis Mills or Jacoby Brissett, I don't think they're worth talking about unless you're in a super deep league. There's no real reason to focus on them, but it's, Justin Fields should not be available in any leagues right now.
Samantha, I know you've been high on Justin Fields. What did you think of his first extended regular season performance against the Cincinnati Bengals?
Yeah, it obviously wasn't the most stellar fantasy performance. He did throw a bad pick, which I think just kind of demonstrated a little bit of his immaturity at this point. But I think he's going to get better, and it's a matter of time, like Sean said. So he's definitely going to be by far the most enticing pickup. So he is rostered in 51% of Yahoo leagues right now. So I would assume that a lot of our listeners don't have him available on the wire. I know I have him in a whole bunch of leagues, so I'm super excited about that. But in terms of the other guys, I'm not jumping to get Brissett or Mills or Eason, certainly, unless you're in crazy deep leagues. Heineke certainly interesting. He has a tough-ish matchup at Buffalo this week, and then he gets Atlanta in week 4. So that will be enticing.
I mean, Samantha, do you know how many listeners we have? We have a lot of listeners. Like 49% is like half of our listeners.
I'm giving our listeners like a lot of credit here that they're playing in savvy leagues and that would have Justin Fields rostered already.
Oh, so you think there's like an adjustment? Like among our listeners, it's probably up to like 69%.
Yes, exactly. 69. Nice. Put it in the books.
Okay. So let's get right into streamers then, because I think, if Field starts, obviously he's a streamer. Everyone else, probably not this week. But I actually want to start with Daniel Jones, because he's a guy who the first 2 weeks of the season, I looked at the schedule and I kind of treated him almost like Saquon Barkley. It was like, okay, he's playing Washington, he's playing Denver. This is not going to go well, but it probably will pick up in week 3. He gets Atlanta. But Daniel Jones has put up pretty decent stat lines these first 2 weeks. He's obviously a streamer against Atlanta, but I guess I'll start with you, Sean. Does he need to be rostered everywhere at this point, Daniel Jones?
Yeah, and I was saying he's a high upside QB2. So I loved his upside heading into the season, but yeah, his rushing ability is insane right now. And actually, when I was doing my initial week 3 projections yesterday, by the time I got done with the Giants game, Daniel Jones was my QB 11. I had to close my laptop and just go for a walk. I couldn't deal with that. And after some updates, he's QB 13. So he's right there on that QB1, QB2 cusp. I think he's a great streamer play this week. I think Teddy Bridgewater is probably the safer play, but I think Daniel Jones, if he keeps this up going forward, he has that upside. If Kenny Golladay finally pans out, he kind of entered the season banged up. Saquon Barkley, we can talk about him in a bit. He should be close to 100% going into this week. So even Evan Ingram is coming back. So things are probably only going to get better for Daniel Jones. So he has the upside where I think he's worth, a long-term ad right now.
Samantha, what do you think about Daniel Jones?
Yeah, obviously it's a super sexy matchup versus the Falcons this week. So I think he's the top streamer if you are streaming quarterbacks or happen to have like an underperforming quarterback, say like Ryan Tannehill or even Justin Herbert. You might want to add someone like that is widely available at 19% rostered. And yeah, his rushing ability just gives him a lot of floor. He had 95 yards and a touchdown against Washington, which I think is super, super impressive, given that how strong that their defense has looked in the past. I like Bridgewater too versus the Jets. The Jets are kind of a little bit of a cheat code at this point at 17% rostered. He's QB 11 through 2 weeks, so certainly would look there. And then Derek Carr is a guy that I feel like people should be looking at on waivers this time around. At 26% rostered, they play the Dolphins this week, finishes QB 9 current in week 1 and currently QB 7 with one more game left to play.
Yeah, Derek Carr. I mean, I used to be really down on him, but I give him a lot of credit. He stepped his game up these last couple of years, and he's made it happen with really one good receiver. Because I know Henry Ruggs got the big catch at the end, but like Henry Ruggs has been a bust to this point. Brian Edwards was getting better too, so that's helping. But I think it's Carr has, given what he's kind of been dealing with out there with really just Darren Waller, a converted, wide receiver. But, even him making Darren Waller like a 100 catch guy. I give a lot of credit to Carr. But yeah, I think Jones needs to be rostered everywhere. And I think like he's a guy that I would start. I'm going to have him ranked over Bridgewater just because you look at the Jets defense and that seems to be the only thing that's actually overachieving. Robert Saleh coming from San Francisco. That was his calling card. The Jets allowed under 5 yards to play to the Patriots and Mac Jones. I thought maybe Mac Jones could have one of those 250 yard, but 4 touchdown games. That didn't happen. I just don't think the Jets are going to be like a sexy team to stream quarterbacks against, because even though they don't have as much talent on defense, their offense is going to be so bad that they're not going to get into these shootout type game scripts. So I really like Daniel Jones, because you could see the Falcons putting up some points on the Giants with Calvin Ridley and Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts and those guys and Cordero Patterson. My God. So yeah, Daniel Jones, I think this week top streamer, roster him everywhere. But honorable mention, got to give a shout out to Kirk Cousins, man, because he keeps doing this high efficiency quarterbacking, and he's not a running guy at all, but he always kind of stays in that mix. Samantha, any thoughts on Cousins? He's going up against the Seahawks this week in a game with a total of 55.5. And it seems almost like it could be another game script that plays out like the one last week against Arizona.
Yeah, I agree. He is QB9 through 2 weeks. I mean, I feel like he gets like a lot of flack just because he falls apart in like games against really good teams, but I don't necessarily.
That could be a problem.
Right. I mean, like he's just like that type of guy that does well when things are going well and then kind of falls apart otherwise. And I think this could be another game, like you said, like the one against the Cardinals this week. So I do really like him, but he is 66% rostered, so probably not available to most people.
Yeah, which means, what's the adjustment? So it's like 80%, 81% for, or is it just, we'll give it +3 to get to 69%. Nice. Anyone else, quick thoughts, Sean, on Big Ben? Because I remember, you had the great point that his arm looked better in that like abbreviated preseason performance, but Big Ben himself has now come out and said, I'm playing like shit. So I'm just curious, it's like how have you kind of adjusted Big Ben in your model? Is there any optimism for Big Ben heading into this week against Cincinnati, which on paper should be a matchup that you can have success against?
Yeah, I have Big Ben pretty low right now, especially with Deontay Johnson banged up. If he's out, I want nothing to do with Big Ben. Even if Deontay Johnson's healthy, I want nothing to do with Big Ben right now. The offensive line is a mess. They're giving Najee Harris like nowhere to run. So they will be pass heavy, but I don't like what I've seen so far from Big Ben. I do like Kirk Cousins this week. So let me talk about him for just a second. But
no, you don't get to pump Kirk Cousins.
I'm pumping Kirk Cousins. Let me pump Kirk Cousins.
That was Samantha's job.
They still
respect my hosting.
Well,
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So yeah, they have some injuries on defense. That's why this is going to be a shootout again. KJ Osborne gives him a legit number 3 wide receiver right now. Maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic, but we were definitely the only podcast to talk about KJ Osborne and Cordell Patterson for like 5 minutes last week. So let's toot our horn a little bit here. But
and I think we got some KJ Osborne in the preseason too. Like, remember we had that whole conversation about like what's gonna happen with Irv Smith out. Like, so
I don't think we said that KJ Osborne would be like good or anything. We said he'd be
I remember saying like the reports out of camp are that like he's got the job. Like it's his job, which that's more than probably like 95% of podcasts.
Right. So he's looked good. I think that's helped elevate Cousins' game. And then, Dalvin Cook was pretty banged up last game. Who knows how that, shapes up this week. But I think they're going to lean on Cousins a lot more in this matchup. I think it's going to be a shootout. So he's my QB 14 right now. I like him as a streamer.
All right. So, yeah, Justin Fields, add him. Daniel Jones, add him. Start him this week. You can go Bridgewater if you need it, but Cousins, I think, is another guy this week, especially. He's probably the second priority after Daniel Jones. Let's go to running back. And Samantha, shenanigans. Talk to me. What's going on? Shenanigans. Shenanigans. I don't even want to talk about this guy, but we have to. I think I think the problem is I have this theory that because of the Shanahanigans, all of his players, they're like constantly worried about losing their job. So they go like harder than they need to go. And then they get themselves, hurt? Yes. Because it makes no sense why like 68 of 60 like running backs have got hurt for the Niners over the last like 1 year and change. Like it just doesn't make sense. Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Obviously, Raheem Mostert's out for the year. Sermon hurt on the very first play, like fumbled, terrible.
Like, oh my God. Like, oh my God.
Like, it's a nightmare for people who did draft Trey Sermon, me. Elijah Mitchell has a shoulder injury. He did come back to the game, though. And then Hasty has an ankle injury. Juszczyk also had like a little bit of a problem during the game. Like, it was crazy. I just didn't know if anyone was going to finish the game out of that backfield. I don't know. I mean, I guess if Mitchell is healthy-ish, like he's the guy, but they still have Kerryon Johnson, and then they just signed right before this podcast started Duke Johnson and Lamar Miller. So I don't know if you guys have any interest in Duke Johnson's season.
So we're going with the Texans backfield of yesteryear. That should go over well. I mean, Sean, because I did say, Sean, before the year started, you were like, yo, let's go. Let's get this Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon love going. I was like, man, I'm fading this whole backfield because I just knew some shit like this was gonna happen. So what do people do now? How do they approach this? How do they make their fantasy teams better? Or is it just a fade?
Well, you're putting some words in my mouth. Yes, I did like Trey Sermon.
Nah, you're remembering wrong, bro. Actually, what did I say? I said something very dumb.
The 49ers situation is always a disaster. I made the joke that it's always the least likely running back that's a league winner.
Yeah, yes.
So I did
that is
say
very
that.
true.
And there are going to be times where we go into a week knowing damn well who's going to get the most touches. That's not right now. So I'm avoid playing guys right now, but I'm trying to roster as many of these guys as I can. So when the time does come and we have some sort of clarity, they're going to go off. That the reason why we're interested in this backfield is because it's a great running scheme. Whoever does get a bulk of the touches typically puts up RB2 numbers. So I'm not saying avoid it completely. If anything, you want to buy low on Trey Sermon, monitor this Duke Johnson, Lamar Miller situation, because you just never know who's going to be the lead back. And it could change every week. So to your point that you were correct about that, but I'm well aware that that's kind of the deal here. If anything, also stash Jeff Wilson. He's on IR right now. If you have a free IR slot, just put him there. You have nothing to lose. He's going to enter this shit show at some point. But I'm not avoiding rostering these guys. I'm avoiding playing them for now.
I love the Undertaker gift, by the way.
Yes, that's exactly what Jeff Wilson's going to do. And Elijah Mitchell got hurt too. Like he wasn't going to come back in the game, but since everybody got hurt, they said, just get back in there and carry the ball a little bit more. So he's still up in there this week, I guess, with the shoulder injury. So a lot to kind of monitor this week, but I'm not making any, bold predictions on a Monday.
You know what my favorite part of Elijah Mitchell coming back in? Trenton Cannon was active. So that means
he's just a special team.
Yeah, well, he's like he's Sonoris Perry. Just
basically
no snaps. He's Buddy Howell. All right. Sony Michel, if Darrell Henderson's gonna miss time, where does Sony Michel slot in the rankings? Samantha, what do you think of Sony this week?
I don't know. 10 carries for 46 yards last week. I don't know that I'm super interested in him. Henderson, it's really up in the air. Like, I feel like it was pretty shady in terms of an update. They just said he'd be reevaluated today. So I have no idea if Henderson is actually going to miss time. If he does, I don't know, maybe Michelle is like a RB3, RB4 type guy, but he's not someone that I'm excited to start. He's obviously rostered in a lot of leagues, so he's also not someone that is widely available for people to pick up.
Yeah, it's more of a sit start question because I know you were off on Convince Me. You mentioned fade Mike Davis against Tampa Bay, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is even if Michelle plays, he's going against Tampa Bay. Sean, any thoughts on this backfield? Is this just a fade all the way around, even if Henderson is active?
Well, you should roster Sony Michel, but yeah, he's probably a low end RB2. I think he'll see enough volume to put up some numbers. But like you said, against the Buccaneers, this is a horrible time to have a spot start. And I think, his receiving usage is going to be limited. I could see them using Jake Funk as the pass catching back. So, that caps his upside, especially in a matchup against Tampa Bay. We saw Cordell Patterson go off against them, but he's more of a pass catching back. So I'd probably avoid starting Michel if I could this week, but long term, whenever he does replace Henderson, I think he does provide mid-range RB2 value because this Rams offense is really good. They're going to set up some potential goal line carries for him. So he's the guy that should definitely be rostered long term, but yeah, this is a tough spot start for him.
I think Cooper Kupp's just going to get all the goal line carries too.
Yes. All the Cooper Kupp.
And speaking of Patterson, this brings me to my next question. Samantha, I'll start with you. Who's the best back in the Atlanta backfield, and why is it Cordell Patterson?
It's so frustrating. Oh my goodness. I thought that Mike Davis was not sneaky, but he was falling in 7th round, 8th round type in drafts. So I was picking him up, and it's like, it was a mistake. I don't know. I mean, like Patterson, who's not even like a rushing type guy, has a full yard per carry better than Mike Davis at this point, and he's obviously way more effective through the air. I am pretty concerned about Davis at this point. So yeah, I mean, Patterson's, I think, an interesting pickup for this week. He also has that dual eligibility, and he is 14% rostered in Yahoo.
Mike Davis last week, 16 touches, 63 yards, no scores. Cordero Patterson, 12 touches, 2 scores. And I'll leave the best for last, 69 yards. Nice. See, you can't say we don't stay on theme. The Action Network Monday Waiver Podcast. Sean, first of all, Patterson's still a wide receiver in some leagues. I think they got to change him to running back now. Assuming he's a running back, where do you kind of have him like rest of season at this point?
It's tricky because I think that he was useful against the Buccaneers. But he's still sort of a gadget guy. He's never going to be like a 20+ touches running back. But he clearly has a role. Touches. He has a role in this. Let me get to my point. He has a role in this offense because the offensive line is so terrible. So having a traditional like a running back like Mike Davis doesn't work. By the way, he was a classic frozen pond kind of running back heading.
Oh yeah, he's drowning. He's drowning.
I wasn't. Yeah, he is falling through the ice. And I was even, once they cut Quadri Ellison, I didn't know who's gonna kind of take snaps away from him, but it's clearly Patterson. They're even having Keith Smith, the fullback, get more like rushing work. So this is a really bizarre backfield, but Cordell Patterson is probably the most valuable right now because of his pass catching ability, and I think they're using him as an extension of the running game just because their offensive line is so bad. So I would value him. He's still like an RB3 flex type. I don't think we can trust him quite yet as an RB2. But in deeper leagues where he has wide receiver eligibility, I think that helps if you just need like a higher floor play. But right now this is kind of a wait and see for me. This situation is something that's not great given the offensive line and the uncertainty, but he's definitely rostered in every league.
Yeah, I mean, if he's an RB3 flex, that's massive value considering some guys who probably were drafted as that, or at least with the hopes of that, and aren't right now. So like, yeah, I think you just got to kind of, it's a new coaching staff, just got to kind of see where this goes. But yeah, Patterson is intriguing. All right, so let's go next. I'm just going to name a running back, and I want you guys to go quick. Just kind of give me, hold or drop for these guys. If you want to give one sentence on why, you can, but let's try to go pretty rapid fire here. Samantha, I'll start with you. Tevin Coleman, who got 5 out of the 29 running back touches in the Jets backfield.
Yeah, I'm ready to drop him. He was behind Ty Johnson and Michael Carter. I think that it's just going to be kind of messy, and it's not a high volume enough offense to be messy and successful for fantasy.
Sean Coleman, hold or drop?
Drop. Why the hell was he on your team to begin with?
All right, next, Ronald Jones. Even after the benching, after the fumble, he was supposed to be the starter. Just 7 of the 24 backfield touches. Sean, I'll start with you on this one. Hold or drop?
Hold, but don't play him. He probably needs a Leonard Fournette injury to be playable, but hold him for now.
Samantha?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I would probably not drop him unless like you are super stacked, but yeah, I'm not starting him.
Philip Lindsay scored a touchdown in week 2, but only 6 of the 29 backfield touches. Samantha, hold or drop?
I think drop unless it's a deeper league. Like Mark Ingram feels like the guy right now, but I don't know. No real interest unless you're in like a 16-team league or deeper.
Sean, Lindsay, hold or drop?
Drop. I want nothing to do with the 3-way running back committee on arguably the worst team in football. Four-way, because I think Rex Burkhead's still getting snaps, but
right. Mark Ingram has like 140 yards and 40 carries, so you could probably drop all of them and not miss a beat in fantasy. A final one, Ramondre Stevenson, Patriots back, healthy scratch, week 2. Samantha, hold or drop?
I think drop unless you're like I said, really deep bench or dynasty formats. Obviously in the doghouse with Bill Belichick right now after some ball security issues.
John Stevenson?
Hold. He is unplayable right now, obviously, but this is Bill Belichick, so anything can happen. Anybody can fumble and get benched at any time. So hold him just in case.
Saquon Barkley, 58 to 69 snaps. We kind of knew he wouldn't play well in, weeks 1 and 2. So I kind of always felt like his season started now. Do we trust him again? Is he like back in that like RB1 conversation? Sean, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the time to buy low is now. I was writing up in my tiers last week. I expected nothing from him Thursday night because they had 4 days of rest. He was limited heading into the season, and they have 4 days of rest. So he was limited again. He looked good, but now he has about 10 days of rest heading into a dream matchup against the Falcons. So I think he'll have a good game here and probably enter the RB1 discussion, if not by the end of this week in my rankings, but week 4. So the time to buy low is right now.
Anthony, thoughts on Barkley?
Yeah, he was in my buy low column last week. I just had no interest in him in weeks 1 through 2, obviously brutal matchups, but this is a plush matchup against the Falcons. So if you can get him from a panicking manager, I would say go out and try to get him.
Which you would think that whoever drafted Saquon Barkley probably overlooked was a potential slow start. So maybe they're going to be willing to part ways, but yeah, I think you can get him pretty cheap right now.
Yeah, and this is the time because listen, it's going to be frustrating still. I mean, we saw it. He had a 41-yard run and still finished with like 57 rushing yards. So it's going to be tough because of the offensive line, which seems to be holding up better. Last year, the offensive line was like better run blocking and they collapsed in pass pro. And this year, it seems like they're holding up better in pass pro, but they can't run block. So it's interesting. They just lost another interior lineman last week. It's not going to be easy, but yeah, this is the time to buy. And then Samantha, James Robinson, week 1 was ugly, but week 2, he outtouched Carlos Hyde 14-2. Still has the worst coach in football, but do we trust Robinson again as like a startable running back?
Urban Meyer is already your worst coach in football.
Easily. Oh, he was before the season even started.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, Robinson has 72 rushing yards and 0 touchdowns all season. Like, obviously, theoretically, he should be the guy. He's a volume guy, but like, I don't know if I trust anyone in this Jags offense right now, including, well, Laviska Shenault is hurt, but even including him if he were healthy.
Oh, you got to get the Jamal Agnew hype train going, man. He's gonna just return a kick for a touchdown and be their most valuable receiver every week. Sean, any thoughts on Robinson, Hyde, these guys?
No, I think we hit the nail on the head last week. Remember, I opened up with him as my RB25. You said RB35, and by the end of the show, we agreed RB30. Guess where he finished this week?
RB30. I saw that.
Yes. Well, I'm assuming like Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift will pass him up, and he'll follow like 32 or 33. But yeah, like he's right in that low end RB2 range. Probably not what people expected. Once ETN went down, people thought he was going to be low end RB1, RB2. But with Carlos Hyde there, it's competition he didn't have last year. So I view him as a low end RB2 flex kind of guy.
And I think Urban Meyer realized that Carlos Hyde is like done. So I mean, Urban Meyer, he tends to fix his like.
That's what we were
eventually.
saying.
Yeah, you pointed that out. It takes way too long. And I would just like to point out that the Jaguars did not in fact cover in week 2. So everyone who thought that was like, oh yeah, we're gonna buy, like, no, it's gonna. I wouldn't invest money in Urban Meyer like at this point in anything to do with Urban Meyer.
I did take the Jaguars against the spread, so
oh my god, like Teddy Bridgewater is like 23-3 on the road against the spread, and like I'm not saying that's predictive, but I'm saying like that should just be enough to like make that a no bet. But Jesus, like just don't, like, come on, man. Urban Meyer might get, like he's if you can find a first coach fired, and get like Urban Meyer plus like 5,000, like do it.
What about David Coley? Didn't he like declined a penalty on 3rd down to take 4th down and punt it or something like that? Just terrible decision.
Yeah, but like David Culley's like a vet who like has been in like, under the Harbaugh tree, and like they have Lovey. Like they have a staff that's like decent. Like Urban Meyer's just out here hiring like cancelable dudes and Tim Tebow. Like it's a totally different situation. Like and also the Jaguars have like 2 yards of total offense. And like 18 turnovers. So yeah, I think Urban Meyer still like David. Like the Texans have actually outperformed expectations to this point. Like if Tyrod Taylor was 10 of 11 for like a perfect passer rating last week. So yeah, I think Cody's got some leash. Let's go quickly to wide receivers. And again, I mean, Kyle Shanahan. Like the fact that this is happening not only with running backs but with wide receivers is very frustrating. But Deebo Samuel, the wide receiver one, the monster of week one, he plays only 70% of the snaps last week as the number one receiver. Ayuk was the number two receiver, but he played only 54% of the snaps. I mean, Samantha, talk to me about, like, is this Shanahan's out wide too now? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's really frustrating because at least like we expected with the running back situation, and even in week one, like at least you knew you couldn't have Trey Sermon in your lineups. I mean, we knew about the injury with Ayuk, but I don't think anyone expected a complete bagel. At least I did not. So 1 catch for 6 yards last week for Ayuk. I did tell everyone to sit him on Convince Me. He is a sit for me until proven otherwise at this point, which is a bummer considering that I feel like he was drafted as a low end wide receiver too.
Yeah, it's one of those situations, you know, if you watch Red Zone, right, and like you have guys on your fantasy team, or even if they're just on your bench, but like you're kind of hoping they do well, and like the Niners game was low scoring in week 2, so they cut to the Niners game, and it's like, oh, a receiver catches a touchdown, and then you're waiting for the announcer to like say who it is because it's like Jawan Jennings, and it's like, and then like week 1, it was like Trent Sherfield, and you're just like, oh no. Sean, like, any thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, you can't trust Ayuk right now, but he's a buy low candidate. I think at some point he's going to go off. And honestly, you want him to go off on your bench because that means you can play him the next week. And Shanahan's been able to get away with this bullshit the first 2 games, but they're going to have to start to get their act together. They face the Packers and then the Seahawks and the Cardinals. So they were able to get away with this, you know, against the Lions, and then last week the Eagles put up no fight. But they're going to need Ayuk.
The Eagles should have won that game last week.
Huh?
The Eagles should have won the game. The Eagles.
I'm saying, well, they didn't put up points.
A fight. They did a Philly special at the goal line.
It didn't work.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like they had a fight. They just had like some egregious coaching errors of their own. Talk about bullshit. Like they should have won that game.
Yeah, well, it was easiest under bet of the week, but I digress.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
But like this act has to end when it comes to, like, I get the running backs. I don't think Trey Sermon should be playing right now anyway, but Brandon Ayuk, he's too good to be playing 55% of the snaps. Like, he's going to have to be a full-time player soon. And one of the targets that Jimmy G threw to him just sailed over his head. It wasn't his fault. And I remember Ayuk was making some mistakes in preseason. So I get
we saw that.
Yeah, I get why Shanahan is being hard on him, but I think this is more of a motivational thing than anything. And he's going to snap out of it. I mean, he's going to be a true elite kind of alpha in this offense. So I think sooner than later, we're going to see him break out, but you can't trust him until he does.
How crazy is it that all these Shanahanigans and Jimmy Garoppolo
who's catching the touchdown this week? Mohamed Sanu, Ross Dwelly, or Kyle Juszczyk?
Is Jalen Hurd like still like?
No, he's dead.
He's IR'd.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see who we got. Who's the third? Charlie Warner, is that the third tight end?
Yeah. I was just going with the second tight end, but
no, come on, it's Shanahan here. The second tight end is gonna like something ridiculous is gonna happen. The second tight end is gonna have to play fullback for Kyle Juszczyk, who's gonna have to play halfback. It's gonna be Trenton
Cannon because why not?
Oh, absolutely.
No, this is the Duke Johnson game actually.
If he plays, yeah, absolutely.
All right, I want to get off this topic. Sean, do your Rondale Moore victory lap, and then let's get to tight end.
So, yeah, I told you. I mean, I wrote that big long. I did this for Tyler Higbee too, so I'll apologize for that later.
I could just knock them both out in one. Like go right.
No, I wanted to save Higbee for later. He's
no. We only got a little time left, so you're gonna have to combine.
I had both Rondale Moore and Tyler Higbee as my ready for takeoff candidates. And Rondale Moore, the only complaint I had from week 1 was his playing time. And that's easily the most correctable thing when it comes to these metrics. And, you know, I figured, so he had a 39% routes run rate and AJ Green had about 90. I figured he would eat into that a bit. Either way, they're going to give him more playing time. His target share was through the roof. He has insane yak ability. So they're going to design plays to get him the football. And then we just saw it all come together last week. You've seen the highlights by now. So I think he's a legit, wide receiver 3 in PPR formats. And the sky's the limit. He only ran around 59% of the time. So I think he can max out 80%. So we're not even all the way there yet. So hopefully you added him and just enjoy the ride. As for Tyler Higbee, he's going to put up numbers once they stop giving Cooper Kupp 100+ targets a game. It's going to have to go somewhere. And I think Higbee is going to be one of the guys that benefits. So hold on to him. Don't drop him or anything, obviously. But yeah, that was really bad week 2. I take full credit for that, but he's going to bounce back real quickly here.
Eventually I'll forgive you for
eventually
that
you got to double down. You got to double down this week when they lower it to like 35.5 receiving yards. Double down.
So I tailed Sean on that Higbee prop from Convince Me. So
guys, what are you doing? There's only one prop to bet each week, and it's Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 touchdowns. If you like losing money. Sam, since I asked Sean about 2 guys he's been high on, and by the way, I totally agree on Moore. I think I said this. He's eventually going to eat into somebody's snaps here. I think it should be Green. I think it will be Green. Christian Kirk has played really well these first 2 weeks, so I don't think you can take him off the field. I think Murray has a good connection with him. But Sam, your guy was Gronk, so we'll talk about him before we get out of here. Like, given that we've seen some kind of down games from some of these elite tight ends, not named Travis Kelce, and we know it's a volatile position. Given that Gronk's snap count is a little bit up and Tom Brady's playing out of his mind, is Gronk kind of back in that elite tight end 1 mix for you?
I think he is. And for the record, I was not like super, super high on Gronk. I was just higher than you guys who were like ready to put him on the ice flow on the podcast. But no, he's tight end 2 through 2 weeks behind Travis Kelce, 4 touchdowns, the 3rd most targeted player on the team. For now, I just think you enjoy the ride because you probably got him at quite a discount. Until he gets injured or something like that, I think he's a viable starter for sure.
All right, and I'll close it with this because I love Gronk. I think he is back in that elite tight end 1 mix, like with Brady playing like this, and Brady's not going to scramble around a lot, so they could throw 40, 45 times a game. I think there's enough to go around because that's their strength, and it's obviously not Ronald Jones. But Sean, you mentioned yards after the catch, and Rondale Moore had 93 yards after the catch in week 2, according to Pro Football Focus. So Maxx Williams had 60. So I know you were kind of the one that had the CJ Uzoma hype train about to leave the station for a second. What are your quick thoughts on Maxx Williams? Because remember, this is the Dan Arnold podcast. This is the Dan. So we cannot get out of here without talking about Maxx Williams before we go.
Could you imagine Dan Arnold in this offense? Wait, he already was and did nothing. So I think Maxx Williams is one of the most underrated tight ends in the league from, the pass catcher, especially a blocker. So it's nice to see him finally break out, but this is a offense that uses heavy 4 receiver sets. So I don't think Maxx Williams is a long-term add here, but certainly he's going to have some games where he's left wide open. We saw that happen, but I think defenses are going to adjust to Maxx Williams.
No, they're not. You literally have to deal with Rondale Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray running, Chase Edmonds, Christian Kirk now, AJ Green still, like, they're literally going to probably just let him catch whatever he wants.
Now you're catching me before I do my full week 2 projections.
Nice.
How many, have you done yours yet?
No, I just know Maxx Williams is my tight end 12.
I do have him projected for over 2 catches though in my automated thing.
Ooh, so Convince Me prop. Okay, catches prop. Ryan Tannehill touchdowns versus Maxx Williams catches this week.
Over, because the line's 1.5 over. I think Maxx Williams, his prop should be about 2.5, and Tannehill, honestly, at this point, should be a half a touchdown. No, I'm kidding. I want nothing to do with Tannehill. I've been betting against him the past couple years. I think you too, and now we're betting on him, and look what's happening. So I want nothing to do with Tannehill one way or the other. But yeah, I think Maxx Williams is good for 2 to 3 catches a week. Is that going to win your league? No, but it is fun to talk about.
Yeah, he is facing the Jaguars this week, so if there's
he's facing the Jaguars. Oh, Yeah, maybe he is a low end tight end when
No, I'm saying like people might need a streamer in deep leagues. You never know. Like I'm saying, it's not the way Kyler Murray's playing, man. Like,
yeah.
Maxx Williams caught 7 of 7 targets for 94 yards last week. I mean, he's obviously already better than AJ Green. He actually had the highest receiving grade from PFF on the entire roster last week. So, like, I'm just saying, I'm keeping him in my back pocket. That's all I'm doing. That's all.
Love your Cardinals tight ends. I got to give you credit for
that. Got to be ahead of the curve on that. All right. So that is going to do it for our Monday episode of the Fantasy Flex in week 3. Again, we moved to the new feed to give you 5 episodes a week. So please do search Fantasy Flex and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, rating and review would be much, much appreciated. It really helps us out, really helps us continue to bring you all of this content and all of these episodes. Of course, check out actionnetwork.com for all of our fantasy football content from Sean, Samantha, and I. Sean and I's rankings are up there as well. Check out FantasyLabs.com for our DFS models and tools. And be sure to download the award-winning Action Network app, where you can follow our bets and track all yours for free. You can find Samantha on Twitter at Samantha NFL. You can find Sean at _oddsmaker. And you can find me at Chris Raybon. You can find Sean and I in the Action Network app at those same handles. And guys, if you like what you hear from Samantha, which of course you do, be sure to hit up mailbag at actionnetwork.com. Her Thursday show on this feed, we'll be taking all your questions and answering those. So be sure to hit that up. That's mailbag at actionnetwork.com. Until next time, let's get this shmoney.